You average out the View hosts among the dumbest people on television.
Sonny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing
just
there.
Go for it. Yeah,
there's nothing there.
I mean, you're married, Tom, you're married. Your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. But let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures, and look at her track record. How many times has she had to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology for all the stuff that she said?
The morning news cycle has a way of surprising people, and for a long time, Sunny Hostin seemed immune to the kind of stories that devastate reputations overnight. She was, after all, the moral compass of daytime television, or at least she positioned herself that way. On The View, Sunny made a career of lecturing her guests, her co-hosts, and the audience about justice, integrity, and the failings of American society. But the tide shifted when her own family name was thrust into a scandal so shocking that it dwarfed the fiery debates she had become known for. Suddenly, her voice, once so loud and unrelenting, fell silent. It started with whispers, then headlines, and soon an eruption across social media. Dr. Emmanuel "Manny" Hostin, Sunny's husband, a respected orthopedic surgeon with decades of experience, had been named in one of the largest Rico fraud cases ever filed in the state of New York. For many, it was unthinkable. For others, it felt like a twist pulled straight from a courtroom drama.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do.
The accusations painted a grim picture: insurance fraud, kickbacks, and unnecessary surgeries performed under the guise of medical necessity. This wasn't malpractice on a small scale. It was, prosecutors alleged, a sprawling scheme that placed profits above patients and turned hospitals into hunting grounds for financial gain. The numbers alone were staggering. Nearly 200 defendants, doctors, clinics, and medical companies were named in the lawsuit. The alleged fraud stretched across taxi drivers, Uber drivers, and Lyft drivers who, after routine accidents, were funneled into invasive procedures they may not have needed. It wasn't just about insurance money, it was about the abuse of trust. Patients who walked into operating rooms believing in the sanctity of their doctor-patient relationship may have been nothing more than pawns in a vast machine of deception.
According to a new lawsuit obtained by Page Six, the orthopedic surgeon was one of 200 defendants named in one of the biggest racketeer influenced and corrupt organization cases ever filed in New York. Emmanuel was accused of federal insurance fraud and, quote, getting kickbacks by performing surgery and billing a company that insured taxi companies and Uber and Lyft drivers.
The plaintiff, American Transit Insurance Company, claimed they had been bled out of millions, forced to foot the bill for surgeries that may have been exaggerated, unnecessary, or even fabricated altogether. What made the story even more surreal was the legal weapon being used. RICO, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, is the same law that once brought mafia bosses and crime families to their knees. And now it was being wielded against doctors in white coats. The thought alone shocked the public. This wasn't organized crime in the shadows of New York's underworld, it was allegedly happening in the fluorescent-lit hallways of clinics and hospitals, with scalpels replacing switchblades.
A citizen that has a policy. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation? How about removing some of the podcasts that disseminate this misinformation?
They have.
And that's listen.
But as the accusations mounted, a counter-narrative quickly emerged. Dr. Hostin's attorney, Daniel Thoughts, came out swinging, calling the case baseless and desperate. According to the defense, this wasn't about justice, it was about survival. Thoughts argued that American Transit Insurance, already teetering on the edge of collapse, was lashing out at doctors to shield its own financial failings. He claimed that Hostin was a dedicated physician who often performed surgeries for patients who couldn't afford them and then had to battle insurance companies just to be compensated for his work. In his telling, Hostin was a victim, not a villain, dragged into a circus to distract from corporate greed. That framing might have held some sway in the courtroom, but outside, in the court of public opinion, things spiraled quickly. Enter Joe Rogan. Never one to shy away from controversy, Rogan seized on the scandal, not just to highlight the alleged fraud, but to tear into Sunny herself. To Rogan, the story was dripping with hypocrisy. Here was a woman who had spent years positioning herself as the voice of morality, calling for accountability, and demanding ethical conduct from others, while her own husband's name was tied to what could become the largest Rico case in New York's history.
Always the people that always do the pointing, and it always comes back to them, all right? So when you said this is the largest Rico case ever filed in the state of New York, you guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia case. Like the mafia one was number one. This one takes it over. So he was scamming insurance companies from taxi drivers, Uber drivers, and Lyft drivers. He was performing unnecessary surgeries and then providing fraudulent medical services in exchange of...
On his podcast, Rogan didn't mince words. He mocked The View, calling it one of the dumbest shows on television and ridiculing the hosts for their holier-than-thou attitudes. He questioned Sunny's intelligence outright, dismissing her commentary as shallow, half-baked, and incoherent. His laughter at the irony was cutting, his audience roaring along as he dismantled Sunny's credibility piece by piece. And while his critiques were harsh, they resonated with millions who already saw The View as a self-righteous echo chamber. Rogan's commentaries struck a deeper chord because of Sunny's silence. The woman who was never afraid to insert herself into controversies, who had an opinion on every headline, suddenly had none when it came to her own family. She avoided addressing the scandal directly, leaving viewers to speculate. Was she protecting her husband? Was she too embarrassed to confront it publicly? Or was she waiting for legal strategy to dictate her words? Whatever the reason, the absence of her voice grew louder each day, feeding into the narrative that she was hiding from. Accountability. Meanwhile, the case itself unraveled like a crime thriller. Prosecutors laid out their claims, surgeries performed without medical justification, patients shuffled into operating rooms as if on an assembly line, and fraudulent bills submitted to insurers in exchange for kickbacks. The imagery was stark, operating tables transformed into stages for financial heists. Each scar a patient carried wasn't just a mark of surgery, but a reminder of a system that may have viewed their health as a commodity. The lawsuit's breadth was unlike anything the medical field had seen in years. Nearly 200 names tied together in a web of alleged corruption. It wasn't just about one doctor or one clinic. It was about an entire network accused of abusing trust. For New Yorkers, the scope of it drew chilling comparisons to mob cases of the past. The difference was that instead of mobsters in smoky backrooms, the alleged perpetrators were medical professionals in pressed white coats. As the legal battle heated up, the cultural fallout expanded. For many viewers, the scandal wasn't just about fraud, it was about hypocrisy. Sunny Hostin, who had once criticized Joe Rogan for spreading misinformation and suggested platforms like Spotify should remove or flag his content, now found herself mocked relentlessly by the very man she condemned. Clips of Rogan laughing at her expense spread across the internet, shared with captions that highlighted the irony. Fans of Rogan and critics of The View alike devoured the spectacle, turning it into a viral storm.
I saw you on The View.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been overwhelming my past couple days. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way and attack my character in that way.
Well, it is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a rabies infested henhouse.
The contrast couldn't have been sharper. On one side, a daytime television star who built her career on moral outrage, now refusing to comment on the allegations against her husband.
Her husband accused of committing federal insurance fraud in a lawsuit. Okay, now let's read this. Rob, is this a video?
Well, I have this. I'll show you this
Okay,
about.
let me just read this and I'll come to you. So, Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host Sonny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest Rico cases. Wow. Hostin's attorney Daniel Twites denies the allegations, calling the lawsuit a meritless attempt by a near bankrupt insurance carrier to intimidate doctors and restrict healthcare benefits. The case involves claims that Hostin performs unnecessary surgeries on patients after minor accidents without exploring less invasive treatments, with American Transit citing New York's 1974 no-fault law as contributing to widespread.
On the other, a podcaster with millions of listeners gleefully pointing out the hypocrisy and amplifying the story with every episode. It was a perfect storm of scandal, media rivalry, and personal downfall. What made the scandal particularly devastating for Sonny was how it touched on multiple layers of public trust. It wasn't just a legal matter. It was about healthcare, a system already under immense scrutiny. With only about a third of Americans saying they trust the medical industry, the idea that doctors might be exploiting patients for financial gain poured salt into a deep wound. It reinforced the cynicism that many already felt about the intersection of health and profit. The longer Sonny stayed silent, the more her critics defined the narrative. Social media buzzed with speculation. Was she complicit? Did she know more than she was letting on? Or was she simply powerless, caught in a scandal that no amount of TV commentary could shield her from? Her silence became a story in itself, a vacuum filled by Rogan's relentless jabs and the media's hunger for more details. As the case moves forward, the stakes remain monumental. If proven guilty, the fallout would devastate Dr. Hostin's career and tarnish Sonny's public image permanently. Even if the defense succeeds in framing this as a desperate insurance company smear campaign, the stain of the allegations may never fully wash away. Public